Hey everybody. So as part of this video, what I produced was a vault to hold treasure for my adventurers. And in that vault, one of the accents are these stone pillars that I've created. I'm going to show you how to make these. It's really simple to do. So essentially what I did is I did use my Proxxon hot wire cutter, and I cut up a few squares. They're about 1 inch by 1 inch, and they're all uniform. And I take about 6 of them all cut up, and then I take 2 larger pieces to represent the top and the bottom of the columns. I'm going to show you why I do that in a minute. And I basically turn it into this stone pillar. Now, the beauty of this is it doesn't require a whole lot of cutting. You actually accomplish this by creating these uniform markings on your foam. So on each side, you're going to do it in the same spot on all 4 sides. And then it's going to look like this right here at the top. To make it look like bricks that are overlaying, you just flip them onto the odd sides. And that's it. Do this as many times as you need to, but you can do it like I did 6 times. Throw on these top bits, which are going to cover your loose cuts here, and you'll have a stone pillar. And you can do it with any shape that you really want. You just want to make sure that it represents and looks like a real brick as it kind of goes around the corner. Bricks aren't super thick, so you can have your slats there, and then comes across, and then it hits the butt of the next brick, and so on and so forth. And to show you, the easiest way to do that is going to be with a ballpoint pen. So I'll take this pen, and I'm just going to mark right as we go. So I'll just do this pretty quickly. You want to mark it pretty deep in there. It doesn't really matter if it's perfect, because again, it's going to be brick. You know, maybe your brick is crumbling, maybe it's a lazy mason worker or something, who knows. So it's really easy to do. So you take this, make the marks nice and deep. They're all on the exact same side. It's going to look kind of like that on the top. And then again, you're going to put them like this. Now you can also crush with just your fingertips and kind of dent them in a little bit. If you don't want them to be too sharp, you just go on the edges and squeeze them, and you'll get more of a rounded, worn stone look instead of a new, fresh stone. And it kind of gives it this beat up looking appeal to it. This is the easiest way to do it. And then once this is done, just like in the last video, I'll make sure I have a link to that down in the description. You're going to cover this in your Mod Podge and black mixture, which is going to harden it up a little bit. It's going to basically prime it. Do 2 or so coats of that, and it'll be nice and black and ready to be primed, whatever stone colors you use. For my vault, I use kind of a gray stone look to it, because I can use this same component as a dungeon piece later on, but it makes it nice and easy. I will say that these are very light. I will probably buy some washers like you've seen in some of my other videos to weigh these down, but the ones that I'm using for my vault, I'm actually going to glue them into place, and it's going to be one piece, kind of like a diorama. But you can make dozens of these in minutes once you get down the speed of cutting them with a Proxxon. I mean, you can cut them with a blade as well. It's a little trickier if you have to make deep cuts on these things. With a blade, you might rip and tear the foam, is what is pretty common when your blade starts to get dull. If you don't already have one, I would highly recommend a Proxxon wire cutter. If you're planning on making a lot of foam components like this, you will definitely see an improvement in the things that you can create, the speed at which you can create them, and with a few additional jigs and things like that, you can start creating some pretty simple stuff. Next up, I'll show you what the gold vault looks like after I've gotten these painted up. Right. So when I first decided to create a treasure vault, I really wasn't sure how I was going to accomplish this. The one thing I did have in my mind was creating one of these giant vault doors that you see in all the cheesy bank heist movies out there. They're massive, they're heavily plated, and they're overall pretty intimidating. And I wanted this door to tell my players that this is not going to be an easy undertaking. Getting through this door is going to be extremely challenging. It is easily 4 times the size of the largest playable races in the game, which means behind this door, there could be just about anything lying in wait for them. So to do this, what I did is I used my hot wire cutter and a jig that I purchased from a company called Shifting Sands. They make all kinds of jigs out of MDF and stuff that help with, different angles and curves, like the one you see here. I am just cutting circles. This is really good for a few other things that I've made before, like cutting tables. In this case, I'm using it for the circular plates used in the vault door. I'm not as proficient with using these jigs yet, but it is a learning experience. And at the same time, it is still 100 times better than trying to cut this with a blade. So I've cut the first circle now, and I'll probably speed this up just a little bit. I've actually cut a few smaller circles that are going to represent the overlapping plates that we're going to have laying on top of the massive plate, making up the entirety of the door. And this is going to give it a little extra detail and really show off that, hey, this is a giant locking mechanism that opens and operates this door. I'm going to cut this down a little bit more, and this way I will have 3 overall plates. I'm going to have the massive door itself, the locking mechanism, and then this small circular piece that's going to have some metal rods jutting out of it as handles or whatever component of the locking mechanism to give it that more realistic look to it. I'm going to cut this down in half, and this will make up the centerpiece of my door. For the next step, I'm going to take some of these wooden dowels and I'm going to clip them down to size. These are going to make up the metal bars that hold the door in place and just give it a little bit more depth so it's not just one big circular plate. I'm going to paint these up to be a silverish or goldish color, and ultimately it's going to, hopefully, when it's all said and done, look like a big vault door. To make the vault, I actually did end up taking a box and recycling this to be the playable space in which we're going to use. And it's not done yet. I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing and some washing on these walls here. When it's all said and done, I'm going to have pillars that are in each of the corners, and I'll show that off near the end of the video. I really just wanted to show you the progress so far. And what I did is, no joke, I just took an old cardboard box that's pretty sturdy. It's double walled, so it's pretty thick and will last. And I cut out the space for where I'm going to have my vault door. And I primed this whole thing black, and then I kind of did a splotchy job doing it in gray to give it a little bit of texture. To do these walls, what I've done is I purchased this Lemax, I think it was Lemax, wall stuff that you use for model villages for Christmas time. I found a roll of them at Michael's, the hobby shop, and they were on sale for, I think it was maybe $11, $14 that I paid for it. I did find these on Amazon for around 20 bucks or so. I mean, it's a lot. It's several feet, and I marked up and measured all the sides. I cut out the pieces that I wanted. I glued them into place so that I would have some kind of brick textured wall so that it would give my vault a much more concealing feeling. Now, what's really important here isn't so much the walls and then, where I put them and the splits in the side. It's the texture that I'm adding. I'm going to dry brush all of this on. I'm going to put the pillars in the corners that I showed you how to make a little bit earlier. And then I can drop in my scatter terrain, which I'm going to have gold pieces, and turn this into an objective space for my players. So nothing too flashy quite yet, but it's getting there. And hopefully by the time this is done, this will lead to an exciting encounter for my players. And here is the progress that I've made on the vault door itself. These are the 3 circles that you saw me cutting out a little bit earlier. And what I've done is I actually cut flat this bottom piece here so that it wouldn't go rolling off the table where I had set it up in front of the actual vault itself. It's a very light piece, so I might add some lead sinkers or maybe put it on a flatter base, something that's a little more sturdy on the bottom to prevent it from getting knocked over, but it stands upright well enough on its own for right now, and I'm actually very pleased with how it came out. What I did was I put about 2 to 3 coats of my black Mod Podge on here to seal it up because I was going to spray prime this. Spray cans tend to melt foam, as you may experience or have already experienced yourselves. So I wanted to make sure I had good coverage on this before I sprayed it. I then used Citadel's Lead Belcher primer spray on this to give it this nice metallic look to it overall. And once that was all done, I wanted it to look more maybe dwarven or well-crafted and give it some real character. So I gave all the metal beams and everything some gold accents. And I don't have much freehand skills, but I wanted to maybe try and see if I could make this look a little bit more interesting. So I used a gold Sharpie, and I just kind of did some edge highlighting and made a little extra markings. Again, just trying to add a little bit more character. And the way that this door will work is it will stand upright, behind it laying my vault. So let's just take this room here, and it'll stand right in front of where I've cut that door, and as my players, hopefully, if they're fortunate enough, can get through it, they can enter into the vault room, and once it's all done, it'll present them with a nice little challenge room. And here is the final product. So as you can see, here's my vault door that we worked with before. That is the entrance into the vault. Once they enter into the vault, they're able to get into the treasure chamber within. So really simple. So from the last thing that I showed you, really all I had to do was finish up my pillars, paint them black, paint them gray, dry brush them white, dry brush white around on all of the tiles. And then, of course, I left the center intentionally void so that I could fit in my scatter, and I can use this modularly for other types of rooms, dungeons, whatever that I needed to. If I need to remove the treasure, put in monsters, whatever I need, it gives me a good open space to do that. One thing I will say, if you want to make it a little bit more vibrant, you could add some torches on the sides and use an airbrush to use an object source lighting technique to make it look like the torches are glowing. I actually wanted to leave those blank for now because at some point I would like to put in some actual LEDs. But that's it. That's all there is to it. I mean, I've got my modular components in here that I can use. My players can jump into the game and try to break into this treasure vault and see what else is lurking within those coins. So you can probably accomplish this and do a much better job than I've done using some better components. The purpose of this really was to hopefully give you a little bit of inspiration, but at the same time, what I really wanted to do was make sure that I could do this and do it cheap. So using an old box lid, a little bit of pink foam that I have. I mean, all of the foam that was used for the coins, for the pillars, for the vault door is not even a third of the foam that I purchased, and those are about $5 a square. So between that and the glitter, the siding pieces, this is just another piece that I was able to purchase all the parts for under $20 or so, and I still have a ton of components left for my future builds. So hopefully this gives you guys some inspiration out there, and it's something that you'll find some use in the future for your games. If you have any questions, please be sure to let me know in the comments down below. As always, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. We're working on videos weekly. So thank you for watching my video, and we'll see you next time.